Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for introducing yourselves and where you're from and what you do. As you can see, we get very excited to see where everyone is from and how global this community is. So first and foremost, thank you so much for joining. The reason we did this webinar, as you know, it's a tech coach special, and we can see from the chat that not everyone is a tech coach as the job title. That is an umbrella term we've picked for anyone that kind of trains or supports their teachers, whether you're a librarian, an ICT teacher, a teacher who likes to train other teachers, and so on. We put this session on just for you because me, Letitia, and Tish will talk about this. The reason why is because we feel like tech coaches, again, umbrella term, is a job role that may not get the credit it deserves the whole time. And maybe only recently, you've seen people actually give the credit you deserve. You've been looking at tech tools for years, like Wakelet and the other tools you use. You spend hours vetting them, looking through privacy policies, figuring out how it all works, hosting PD sessions, and maybe only as of recently, people have actually been listening to what you have to say about the tech tools you use. So firstly, from us here at Wakelet, just a huge thank you to all the tech coaches out there and everyone who trains teachers. Without the likes of you, Wakelet wouldn't be where it is today with the way it looks, the feedback we get, the suggestions we get from you. You're using it with your teachers and students every single day. So we thank you so much for that feedback that you give. And I'm sure your teachers and students thank you so much as well. So we put this session on today just to say thank you first and foremost, but show you how we can hopefully make your lives a bit easier by using Wakelet and how you can support your teachers and students as well. And since you introduced yourselves, I think it's only fair that the three of us introduce ourselves. So I'll go first. I'm James, everyone. I'm the head of community here at Wakelet. I see a lot of people in the chat that I recognize. If you don't know me, I look after everything community. So our amazing ambassadors, leaders, and members, and basically just make sure you're all having the best time on Wakelet. And if you're not, feed that back to us and we can make sure you are. Letitia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Who's going first?
Go ahead, Tish.
You want me to go first? Okay. I'm Tisha Poncio, a digital learning specialist in North Texas, and I use Wakelet for everything before we hit live, so you guys could all join us. Leticia and I had already started the webinar. So we love sharing about Wakelet. Yes, yay, North Texas. And all my Texas people out there, you know I love you. So much love to all of you. And I'm so honored to get to share the stage today with James and Leticia, two of my favorite people in the world, but also two of the best members of my PLN. So make sure that you follow both of them because they share incredible things all the time on Twitter.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are. I am Leticia Citizen. I am an I4 coach at Hawthorne School in Beverly Hills Unified School District here in sunny California. And let's see, I've been teaching for 21 years. Yes, I'm so excited to share my experience with Wakelet, because I have to tell you, and we talked about this when we were waiting to let y'all in. We talked about, and Tish and I shared how originally I was not a Wakelet person. It actually took me a year, and that was because I really needed to see how it was going to fit into what I was doing. And I have to tell you, once I found a way, I was like, yo, you could do so many things. And in that time too, Wakelet has been phenomenal with listening to feedback from teachers and students and enhancing their platform. So they won me over, man, and I can't wait to share. And I'm so excited. I'm still like, my mom's like, how many people we are connecting with right now all over the world. So thank you for being here. And then for those of you who are watching on the recording, thank you as well. So let's get started.
Oh, Joanna Bennett. Sorry, I have to shout her out. She's my coworker. No, I'm so excited. Listen, you guys do not even know. Leticia and I have so many more things to share with you besides what we're showing you today. So that was the difficult part, was condensing it down to the few things we're going to showcase for you and share with you. But just remember, we have so much more to share.
Yes.
Okay, Leticia.
They do. What I'd like to start with is just a quick overview of Wakelet for those that may be new. I know a lot of the community and teachers invited their tech coaches to take their first look at Wakelet today. So if you are new, a very big welcome from the three of us here to the platform. I'm just going to share my screen real quick, just because I know a lot of people already use Wakelet here. and just explain what the platform does. So Wakelet is a content creation platform, and it allows you to save, organize, present content from anywhere on the web into collections that you can easily share with whoever you like. And of course, with that, you can create whatever you like on Wakelet. It's really, really easy to understand. If you understand these 4 steps, then you really do understand Wakelet. So the first step with Wakelet is to think that you can save anything from the web to Wakelet, literally anything. Whether it's an online document, it could be a YouTube video, an article, a web page, an online game, a social media post, literally anything and everything that exists online, you can save to Wakelet. Step 2, you can then organize and curate all of those amazing pieces of content you've saved into collections and make them really nice and interactive and visual to then pass on to other people. You can also collaborate. So this will be a big part that Letitia and Tish will be talking about. You can also collaborate with your colleagues and your students. You don't need to create this collection all on your own with this content. You can invite people in to all collaborate and work together on a collection. And then lastly, this is very important, especially for tech coaches. You're always sharing information. Wakelet is perfect to allow you to share 100 different links in one link, really nice and simple, really engaging, really interactive, and you have different layouts to do all the same. So that is Wakelet in 4 simple steps. And these are 3 things that I really want to highlight as one thing Letitia and Tish were talking about yesterday when we were discussing this. For those questions that you may have, just want to get them out the door already. Wakelet is completely free, and it always will be. Everything you see and use today will always be free for you to use. Unlike other platforms that are free, Wakelet is also completely unlimited. So there are no limits to anything you create, anything you see on the platform. You can view it, share it however you like. And then last but not least, Wakelet is completely safe as well for you, but also for your students too. So for those in Europe, we are GDPR compliant. And for those in the States, we are COPPA, FERPA, for California, CSPC, and New York, we are New York Ed Law 2D. If you don't know what any of that means, it basically means Wakelet is proven and safe to be used by your students and also by yourselves. So that's what I wanted to cover straight away, just for anyone that's new. So welcome all. And of course, we have Letitia and Tish here to show you through the awesome ways that they're using Wakelet and their teachers using Wakelet as well. So without further ado, Tish, Letitia, please take it away. Even I'm looking forward to learning some new things here.
All right, here we go. Oh, wait, falling asleep. Okay, there we go. All right. Go ahead, Tish. Can you see? Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, we're ready. So what we've done is we've actually split up this collection. We've created this collection for you, so don't worry, we're going to put all of this in the chat. You're going to get every one of these examples so you can go back and look at them. And there are a couple of templates I saw that Leticia added. So the first section that we have is organize. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I organize things. I put together a Wakelet. The first Wakelet that I'm sharing with you is a conference PD opportunity. So I have created a collection for me, first of all, so I kind of know which conferences are coming up, which ones I really want to look at, which ones are free, which ones are paid. And as Leticia scrolls, you can see that I can section them off for my teachers also. And I can share very quickly that link with my teachers and send them all of those conference links so that they can have a choice in what their PD is. So that is one way that I share out and use it for myself. The second way is you'll see this EdCamp Clubhouse. So shout out to all my Clubhouse users. And if you're wanting to use Clubhouse, no worries, because the Android version is coming soon. I think it's coming next month. But we use this as a back channel right here for our EdCamp Clubhouse. And actually that is happening tonight at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time if you want to join. We're still not sure if we're doing it tonight, but we normally do it every Thursdays. I know lots of you are on spring break, but this is a back channel. We let our audience members tell us maybe what they want to talk about during that session. So this is just another way that you can use it. You could do this with students, teachers, anywhere you are presenting, use it as a back channel. And then the next example I have, which I know we talk about this all the time, we go to conferences, we pick those conferences, and what I do is I always create a Wakelet, And I put together a Wakelet of all of the links and notes that I want to go back and look at and review. So this is my collection from TCEA 2021. And there's so many great resources from TCA this year. But it's also really easy for me then to take what I've done for myself and share that out with my colleagues or my teachers. And so those are some of my favorite ways just to use it and then also share it out.
Now, just, starting off where Tish ended. So I also love to use it for conferences, especially during this virtual time of our lives, right? So lately, many of the teacher institutes, whether they are a couple of hours, maybe they last a couple of days, and even conferences, I also love using Wakelet. And that was actually like my way into really being committed to Wakelet. And so I've shared an example of a teacher institute where they were talking about like culturally responsive read alouds. And so, what's nice is that, yes, on the computer, I can go ahead and take screenshots and easily add the images in. When we're in person, I love, if you do not have the Wakelet app on your phone, you need to do that right now, because when we're in person at a conference, I love taking pictures of slides or information that they're sharing, and then immediately from my phone, I can share it to my Wakelet collection and it pops up in real time. So anytime you add something new, it immediately appears at the top, and then I can go ahead and move it to the space. So you'll see here that I'm taking notes, I'm writing down, I can bring in other images that I see. They share a video, they've got YouTube right here where I can bring that in safely. And so it's a great way to stay organized. And then again, once I'm finished, I can just go ahead and share this with my teachers at my school if they want to access it. The other thing about Wakelet is Spaces. And I know Spaces is a great way for you to collaborate with students and teachers, but for myself, I'm type A and I really need to stay organized. And I have to tell you that I celebrated for days when Wakelet finally came out with Spaces, because I had like 300 something collections in my account. And I was like, I need to find a way to organize these things. It was driving me crazy. And so Wakelet kept saying like, something's coming, something's coming. So when Spaces came out, oh my gosh, talk about being in heaven. So I just wanted to take a picture of like my spaces that I have, because then it helped me go ahead and move my collections into those spaces. Now I do want to throw caution to the wind that if you do have public ones in your original like account in your space, that it will remove it from your profile, but there's a workaround to do that. So you can definitely do so. But using that Spaces for me to stay organized with my, and I love using emojis. So I use that for my profile pic. And then I also use emojis in my titles. But this is a great way just for me to stay organized as a coach and just someone who's using all these Wakelets collections. And then lastly, I love using, for me, because I do have to train a lot of teachers, I love using Wakelet to present. Now, I do toggle between Nearpod because I love the interactions that are there, that I can provide those opportunities for teachers. But Wakelet also does the same thing, people. So definitely check this out. Like, you can set it up, and I love just setting it up in a linear fashion when I'm presenting. Like I did 2 presentations yesterday and I use Wakelet to present, but I set it up in a linear fashion. What's nice is because like I still can make it interactive. Teachers can go ahead and click on the links, even if you're doing this with students. But again, it just helps me stay organized. It helps me plan. And once I was doing this, I was like, I can just use this to present. So at the end, you will have access to this Wakelet, and then you can actually take a look at these. I did in the templates as well. Wakelet has templates now. I did create a presentation template that you can take a look at too. So that way you don't have to build it from scratch. Okay, passing it over to you.
So I think that's a great tip, Leticia. Just talking about, oh, Jessica's mind blown. If you want to use emojis, because Leticia loves emojis just like I do, but on my Mac, I use Control plus Command plus Spacebar. gives you the emoji menu, and I use that for everything. So especially on Wakelet though, but presenting from Wakelet, it is such a great implementation. Don't you agree, Leticia? I mean, I think we both probably do that now all the time. And something that you may not know about Leticia and I is that it took both of us a while to come around on the Wakelet loop. We were introduced Wakelet, and then it took us a while. So as tech coaches, we understand that sometimes there's hesitation and maybe you aren't sure if it's going to be beneficial to you or your teachers. But I can tell you hands down that it is the platform that I use every day because of all the different artifacts that I can put in into that collection. And as presenters, we want to put all of those things in for our attendees. So yes, Anna, I'll repeat that on your Mac keyboard. So if you have like a MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, you can hold down the control key, the command key, and the space bar. And that pops up a little emoji window, like menu. So you can search for emojis. There you go. So our next section is the share section. And you will see that I actually put together a little lunch and learn menu group. So I've done this for a really long time, digital learning. So I've done lunch and learn sessions. I've done PLC sessions. So at one point I was putting together menus for all of my teachers, learning menus, so that I could post them in the bathroom. One other thing I did, Leticia, which is always funny to me, and I cannot remember who I got this idea from, could have been Amy Storer, probably. But I created something called a toilet paper, which is kind of a play on words. So yeah. I would put together a newsletter, and these are just examples of how you can put together all the things that you have for your teachers, whether it's newsletters or lunch and learn menus. And you can see, Leticia, that black menu that I created right there, the colorful one, I actually made that in Adobe Spark. And because it's in Adobe Spark, I could share that link to the Adobe Spark and paste that right into my Wakelet collection. And it looks so nice there. So if you're not using Adobe Spark, you absolutely can do that. So I just grouped that together. That helps me, but it also helps my teachers if they want to go back and look at things that they've already learned, things that we've already hit. And so I don't know what my next one is. There's so much to share. Oh, okay.
You're perfect.
So this is the share of all shares. This is something I created last year. And so I had a different account on Wakelet, and I sort of made it the digital learning hub. And I wanted my teachers to actually be able to go to one place. And I wanted the ease of changing it up and updating it, which is why Leticia told you to put the app on your phone. Because if I'm on Twitter or somebody sends me a text message with a really great article about classroom management, for example, I want to add that to one of these collections so my teachers can look at it. But I've just taken that profile and put it into different groups. So start here, different learning management systems, screen recording things, digital tools, social and emotional, choice boards. I added a self-paced lesson for you guys.
Like, I haven't seen this one.
Well, so I made it specifically for my teachers here where I work, but yeah, it's out there. And so I haven't updated it a lot, Leticia, lately, but I did yesterday. I added that student leadership lesson plan. So I really wanted my teachers to have a hub of resources that were current, right? And for me, using Google Sites, that gets the job done. But again, I'm going back to my flow, my productivity. And for me, it just all works together. The Chrome extension, the app, I can do it flawlessly. I can do it when my husband's driving me somewhere. I can be working on my phone. So this was something I put together, but it definitely is a way you could do it for students, right? You could do it for your teachers. Your principals could do it with newsletters. There's so many different options for this, but this is one of my favorite shares of all time. So I think you're up now, Leticia.
I think this is great because actually I was presenting yesterday and I was actually presenting about Wakelet. And so one of the questions was about sharing these Wakelets and how do I help teachers stay organized with them? Do I advise teachers to, to bookmark it on their own computer. And so one idea was I expressed how, like at my school, I use Google Classroom. So I have a Google Classroom where all of my teachers are added as students, and that's where I share my Wakelet collections. But I did also suggest like, hey, you can create a Wakelet account and use your profile. And that will be the one-stop shop for teachers to access.
Exactly.
So this, I mean, you were in my head.
Colleges, right? Professional development. I mean, you could really tailor this to anything, even parent communication. There's just so much here. And I know a lot of you are asking me how I made those cover images. You could use Canva, you could use drawings, you could use Jamboard, you could use Adobe Spark. I used Adobe Spark. And I just used one little template, and I went and changed all the names. That part's a little bit time consuming, but if you want it to look put together on a design level, I mean, that's how I did it. Super easy.
Yeah, and I love using Buncee. So if you're familiar with Buncee, so here's my example. I actually created on all of my Wakelets collections for my cover image. I just create them on Buncee. And what's nice is because I can also do the animated ones. But here's a collection that I created for my teachers for Black History Month. And you'll notice that there are actually Wakelets inside of Wakelets. I think we call that a tidal wave or something, I think unofficially, right, Tish? And so again, how am I going to use this with my teachers? How I want to make their lives easier. So I went and curated right before Black History Month. And like I said, there's Wakelets inside of Wakelets. So I wanted to better organize it so that way it just wasn't all like, just didn't throw up all these resources. So to help them stay organized, I went on ahead, and I also you'll notice that for this one, this is the grid layout. Wakelet does have 4 different layouts that you have access to. So the one that we're using for our presentation is the linear one, right? And then you have the compact where it takes these exact ones and makes it a little bit smaller. This one is set up as the grid, so that way it's side by side. And then you saw one of Tish's where they were like all over the place. That's the mood board, so it kind of reflects like Pinterest, if you're familiar with that. But here's just a way, again, I'm collecting resources, and even as teachers are finding resources, they'll share them with me and I can go ahead and add them. Or if I wanted to, I could add them as contributors, right? And so that way they can add to the collection, not take away. But this is just something that I love to do. So I did this for, here's the mood example. I did this for Women's History Month, and we have like a multicultural week celebrations that are going on. So I've been curating resources for that as well. So definitely this is how I love using Wakelet to support my teachers. Another way, and this was an idea that I actually got from Amy Slower as well. I mean, I don't know why she just wasn't here with us, but we love like bouncing ideas off of each other. She's another one of my favorite people that I love. But this past summer, of course, because we were, again, in that virtual season of our lives, many PD opportunities were all virtual. So I love attending them, but I also wanted my teachers to have access to it as well. So what I did was I curated PD opportunities, whether they were just for one day or for a week, maybe they were just for a couple of hours. And I divided them by month. So for June, July, and August. And then what was really nice is that as I received recorded sessions, and I would ask, whoever like sent me the recording, I would say, oh, do you mind if I add it to our Wakelet? I also made it a recorded webinar Wakelet collection for teachers to access. So in case they couldn't make it, to be there live, then they could go ahead and click on these and watch them. In addition to creating a form, so that way teachers could document and reflect on the PD opportunities that they had. So this is another great thing. And again, I got this idea from Amy Store, who you all need to follow as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I saw like there's a lot going on. I know you're managing the chat, right?
I'm helping out in the chat, Leticia. Yes, while you're sharing your screen, trying to answer as many questions as possible. You guys are really engaging today, so that makes us excited. So next we are at the collaborate section of our webinar, which is one of my favorite things ever. So I think of Wakelet in levels, Leticia. I don't know if you think of it like this, but it's so intriguing to me because in the beginning, I just used it like we showed, like just for myself, right? And then I kind of grew to where I was like, oh, okay, now I'm confident about putting something together and sharing that out. And then you build more confidence, and then you think, oh, now I want to collaborate with somebody. So Amy Storer, Rochelle, Amy Storer, I think James can probably put her Twitter link in the chat for you guys so that you have that.
It's Tech Amy.
Oh, great. Perfect. Okay, so next.
Her Wakelet and her Twitter handle.
Yes. And the dimensions, some people were asking about that, but James also put that link in there for dimensions if you want to go into Buncee or Canva or Spark and create those headers. You see mine. Let's go ahead and click on my digital showcase. Believe I made that a GIF. I think it sparkles or something, Leticia. And then that was a whole nother level because I had never done that before, but I wanted it to be fun. So this is one of my favorite things to do with my teachers, but you could do this with your students. Your principals could do this with all the admin. I mean, there's so many ways you could do this. So I call this the digital showcase, and it's essentially a portfolio for my teachers. And I want them to think through and reflect on the year, and then I want them to contribute. So I give them these instructions. As Leticia is scrolling down, you see they have exact instructions on this, and I give them a choice, just like I would do with those students. I tell them that they can add any artifact. And I'm not specific. It doesn't have to be a picture. It doesn't have to be a Flipgrid. It can be whatever they want. So Leticia, as you scroll down, you'll see that my teachers have added their favorite tools. So this is GimKit. One of my teachers loves GimKit. So that's what they wanted to share. I'm reviewing materials and things like this. And yes, Amy, this is on our Wakelet that James will put the link. He'll put it in the chat again for you guys. But the goal here is for my teachers to reflect. I want them to reflect on the year. This year was hard for all of us, but I want them to remember that there were some great things that happened, and there were some great learning opportunities in those classrooms. And that's really what it's about. And so they're reflecting, they're seeing what everybody else is posting on there. I had a teacher actually use Nearpod. Now I saw some of you can't use Nearpod, but you could do this with a Wakelet. She wanted to give them some news that wasn't super happy. She needed to kind of communicate something that she knew was going to impact them emotionally. And so she used a Nearpod and had them reflect on how they were feeling so she could address that. So there's lots of ideas from my teachers here personally at the high school level, so you can see what they've done. And what I do with this is I share it out with everybody. I share it out with the principal, the superintendent, the curriculum director, so that you can tell the story of the great things happening in those classrooms. A social injustice unit, I'm telling you, that's one of the most popular ones that I share. Because it's timely and the kids get a choice and they're learning and they're having conversations and really just taking it to the next level. So many great ideas on there. Science, math, history, Leticia, I don't know. That's my favorite one to share because I'm showcasing my teachers. And then I don't know what I posted next. I think it's you. I think it's you now.
It's me now.
Yay. I couldn't remember.
So not only can you collaborate with teachers, right, but go ahead and collaborate with students. And I love using Wakelet to check in with them. So I think this is common knowledge, right, that we'll be coming out with student accounts. Can I say that? Yay or nay? James is not saying anything, so I think it's okay.
You can say that. You can say it.
Okay, I can say it.
We said it.
We said it.
The surprise is out.
Yes, Karen, I'll actually share with you, Karen. I do a Wakelet newsletter, and I'll share that with you soon. But yes, so very soon you will have the capability to connect your Wakelet to your Google Classroom, so that way you can manage student accounts. And this is especially important for our littles, right? So I work with TK5, and before, because Wakelet was only for 13 and up, the great way that you could still make this a collaborative space for our littles was adding them as a contributor. So if you are looking at my screen, I would go ahead and click invite. This is where you would get that contributor link. or you can give them the code, or if they're using, their phones or their iPads, they can go ahead and scan the code or the QR code. Oh my gosh. But this was a space that I set up to do a check-in. So I love checking in with my students every so often, so maybe every 8 to 12 weeks. Part of what I do as a coach is I do teach digital citizenship. So I meet with every class TK5 at my school every 2 weeks for 45 minutes. And we are learning digital citizenship strategies and tools and trying to keep them safe and respectful and responsible, right? But I don't only want to just do the lessons that Common Sense, which has amazing lessons, and they also partner with Nearpod, so I love doing those with students, but I also want to give my students opportunities to practice those skills. So using Wakelet is a great way to do that, setting up this space where they can all share their responses. So I love doing a keep, stop, start, where students are going to go ahead and tell me, what do you want to keep about our class? What do you want to stop from our class? And what do you want to start for our class? And like I said, I do this like about every 8 to 12 weeks or so, just to check in. And as a class, we look at those responses. And so what's really nice, again, because they're contributors, so they just are able to add information and not take away. I kept it really simple. I just had them use the text, but you could totally have them do like a Flipgrid short, or they could do, they can do their own like mini collection in there. They can add images if they wanted to, but for this particular assignment, I just wanted students to contribute and add their text and information about what we should keep, stop, and start about class. So that's there for you to take a look at. Another way that I love for students to collaborate using Wakelet is doing a notice and wonder. So I love using primary sources. It's a great way to definitely bring in those marginalized voices that are otherwise being forgotten or intentionally left out. And I love using primary sources to actually let those voices that are apparent in those primary sources to do all the talking. So here's a Wakelet that I set up where I just add the primary source. I ask students to go ahead and tell me, what do you notice and what do you wonder? And then they can go ahead and add their responses at the bottom. At the moment, yes, Wakelet students can only add their responses. They can't give each other feedback, but there are some creative ways, and I know Tish does this, that you can have students go ahead and share their response, especially like when students create something. I like to set up a Wakelet where I've added, a Wakelet for each student, put their creation there, and then students are contributors and giving them feedback that way. So there are some workarounds that definitely are exciting. Here's another one where I created for Dixit Week. I created a choice board for students. And so again, this is where I put Wakelets inside of a Wakelet, but for each day, they had some activities that they can choose. So you can take a look at that as well. I set it up so that way, day one was I always tell them their essential question, but there was an activity for grades TK2. And again, love that Wakelet that I can like bring in all these links from Google Drive. There was an activity for grades 3 through 5. So I could put that link to this game that they could play, a digital passport game. And then there was an activity for grade TK5, and that actually sent them to a different activity where they're going to have an opportunity to collaborate and see each other's responses. And then lastly, I included a family activity. And for that family activity, it links to a Pear Deck that I just set up in Student Pace. So this was, again, for students to be able to access and use through that entire week for Dixit Week. And still, it was safe, it was contained, and as a teacher, I can watch. And now I know before I've had questions where teachers have asked whether or not, as a teacher, can we moderate responses? And at this moment, no, we can't, right? But I'm also looking on, so I'm ready to delete if I need to. I do usually take a screenshot, and students, they have brain farts momentarily, right? Like, it happens, we know this. So I will usually like take a screenshot and then like give a heads up, hey Tish, let's try to make a better choice. Try to be a little more respectful the next time you answer, and then give them a chance to respond again. So at this time, no, they can't moderate, or you can't moderate as a teacher, but who knows what will come.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Leticia. I mean, I think with any tech tool, we have the opportunity to really hit home that digital citizenship behavior and that information literacy. And it needs to be happening as seamless as social and emotional learning, right? It isn't like a lesson a week or 1 week out of the year. It's something that we need to integrate into our behaviors and our teaching and our pedagogical practices just naturally. So I love that you've pointed that out because, you know, sometimes they're gonna make stupid mistakes and say things that they didn't mean to publish. And I think the thing about that is that if it's happening with us, with your digital learning coaches, your you know, your tech coaches, your teachers, at least that's a safety net for them so that they can learn through that. And it's not something that they're doing out in the real world that impacts employment or something like that. So I just think that's a really great point. You know, we love digital citizenship. I love digital citizenship. So, so I've been trying to answer a ton of questions. Just remember to drop your questions in the chat. James and Leticia and I will really try to make sure that we've answered everything. But if not, you know, you can DM Leticia, myself, James, and we will try to get you an answer. So the last section is the integrate section. And I didn't include the lesson that goes along with this collection because it really could be any lesson. I mean, this could work with any lesson, and Leticia has hit on it as well. The reflect and share part of that learning process, I think, is something that we tend to sort of go over and don't spend as much time. And so I love to use Wakelet to have a reflect and share portion. So it could go with any lesson, project, or anything that you have. This particular project, I actually created a Jamboard, and I believe it was holidays around the world, which I have shared before. And students were going to research a holiday, and they were putting together a Jamboard, and the goal was for them to collaborate and put some curiosity, some questions. I always encourage students to ask questions. And that's another thing I feel like students really, especially at the high school level, Leticia, I see it so much where they are afraid to ask questions. And I really want them to be comfortable about asking questions, but also know how to. So this would be a great way to allow them to inquire. You also could just have them reflect on each other's projects here verbally. And you could talk about, you know, Leticia, give me one point that you like about James' project, and maybe one point, I always call it one point of shine. And there's another word I use. There's so many ways to do feedback with students, but you could just do that verbally. I mean, that's a really great practice for them. So they can add their reflections, they can add their artifacts here. And then I don't know if I have another integrate example, Leticia.
You do.
Really? Oh, I do. Okay. So again, Leticia and I have so many examples. I don't think you guys actually know. We have so many examples, and I haven't even shown you my student portfolios. That wasn't even something I included. But with the student accounts, student portfolios are going to be so cool. I cannot wait. This is an English assignment with, I believe, a 9th grade English teacher, and she had her students go in and make their own Wakelets. And she had their instructions and their learning goals written out on a Google Doc. She put that in Google Classroom. And this was the result of that learning. And they had to turn this link in. So they just shared their Wakelet link into Google Classroom, and the teacher went through with her rubric and graded their artifacts and their validations for why they used those artifacts. So there's just so much. I know it's like 1:43, but I want to give some time for us to talk about more questions. I feel like there's a lot of questions today, and we have one more reflection collection.
Right. And so I did want to say that, like, it's interesting to hear that even in high school, like, they still have that fear of asking questions, because I did teach 5th grade for 9 years, and that was something that I really tried to build from the day that they walked in, just really creating an environment of curiosity, inquiry, wonder, asking questions, because on the one hand, I found that, like, when my students came in, they wanted to be spoon-fed everything.
Yes.
Right. And I would tell them, I'm not the gatekeeper, yo. So the ones who do the work, do the learning, right? And then secondly, students were they were not comfortable with asking questions because they didn't want to seem like they were wrong. Like they walked in that space of like thinking that they knew everything. And so really getting them to be comfortable. And so I was very intentional about like every day requiring, like you said, reflecting on our activities, doing a lot of annotations and close reading, and really having them to just focus on asking questions. And what was beautiful is that even just in a month, watching how their questions transformed from, you know, just like, oh, why is this flower here, when it really had nothing to do with it, but really transforming and really being thoughtful, and really being curious and being okay with that. And I think the other thing that really helped too is I'm a big fan of Kylene Beers and Bob Probst, if anyone else is. They have this whole thing on closed reading and their 3 big questions. And one of their questions that they really help students about like asking questions is helping students understand, especially that when they're reading, that authors write with a certain audience in mind. So if they're going and writing with a certain audience in mind, that means that there's a lot of assumptions that they're assuming that the audience already has certain information. And so helping students understand that it's okay if you didn't know, you know, where the Golden Gate Bridge was, because the author wrote with an audience thinking that everyone knew. And so it's almost like being able to say, well, the author assumed that I knew this information. And so really working with them, like from that angle to then transforming it to like, I just didn't know, and here's what I don't know. So I completely, we could talk about this all day long.
And that's the thing, Leticia, I wanted to say this for all of our attendees. The thing that, and you can hear Leticia and I say it as we are presenting to you, the truth is Wakelet is this a vehicle to help you get your students to the place, the goal that you want them to go. So whether it's creativity, whether it's question asking, right? Whether it's reflection, there's so much that you can do with these collections. And again, we split it up in those categories that we did so that you would, one, not feel really overwhelmed. You don't have to start at the integration level if you aren't comfortable with that. Start at the just sharing level and how are you using it yourself? And so we're going to look at the last reflection collection that Leticia has, and then we'll let you guys ask some questions.
Right. So then the last one is, this is perfect timing for those of you if you are like nearing the end of school. I used to do this as a hyperdoc, like just on a doc, but hello, why not use Wakelet? Especially now that students will be able to have their own account. So it, you know, gives the directions to advise students to go ahead and click the 3 dots so that way they can copy this collection and walking. And this is great too to do with teachers, right? Especially after living this virtual life that we've been living for a while, but like walking them through this whole reflection process. So having them to jot down 3 to 5 successes that they had for this past school year, you know, jotting down some quotes that they heard that really like stick out with them besides "you're muted." You know, that would be like probably a famous quote, "You're muted, Tish, you're muted." And then listing some events. And so them going through this process and using Wakelet to do it. And then at the end, they're actually going to take all of that information and go to Google Drawings and create an infographic, and then having them to share that on a Padlet, or even having them share that on a Wakelet as well. So giving, again, it is important to allow our students and our teachers as well, a space for them to reflect, you know, throughout the school year, after activities, but definitely, excuse me, I keep like getting this, definitely at the end of the school year. And so that's there for you to take a look at and use as well.
That's a great template, Leticia.
Thank you.
Great. Everybody go use it. It's time for us all to reflect on our school years, right? And what worked and what didn't work and what needs to be improved, and where we want to go and our goals as educators or coaches or whatever your role is. It's just really important to do that reflection. So thank you for sharing your screen, Leticia.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I'll go ahead and stop sharing right now.
No, that was absolutely amazing. I don't know, Leticia probably didn't see the chat as much as me and Tish, but there are so many questions coming through and a lot of excitement. So thank you so much to the 2 of you for sharing how you're using Wakelet. I want to just share real quick. Tammy put into the comments. This is one thing that I really want to get across today. Tammy said, "It's so fun to hear teachers say that they have a need and be able to point them to Wakelet for almost every single one. And I think that's what we've just shown right now, is that Wakelet is a brilliant tool for yourselves to use as tech coaches to help you get organized, but then also you can pass it on for a tool for all. So I know there's probably certain tools that you use just for, say, kindergarten students, just for your teachers, just for your librarians. Well, Wakelet can cover everything in your school and your district for everyone. And I think that's one thing we're quite proud to say, that Wakelet is a tool for everyone, and we're trying to make it even better for everyone as well. There are a few questions, Tish and Leticia, if you're ready to answer them.
Sure. We're ready.
Yeah, awesome. So one question that came through before, what was before Wakelet? How did Wakelet look before as a tech coach? I've spoken to a lot of people who've been using Google Sheets with links everywhere that you'd share around. You'd have a messy website that you created, and I suppose hundreds of tabs open as well. But I'd love to hear from the two of you what it looked like before you started using Wakelet.
Go ahead, Leticia.
Let's see. So I like made a lot of transitions. So at one point I used Symbaloo. I don't know if you all remember that. I used Symbaloo. I tried to use Google Sites and I wasn't really a big fan. I do have my own Weebly. Now I still use my Weebly. What's nice is that I can still put my collections and embed them into my Weebly website as a coach. So that's been beautiful because it actually embeds the whole thing and the Wakelets are there. Yeah, I would like taking notes at conferences. I have like all these docs that do I go back to? I don't know, when I remember that thing. And then I do have them organized in folders, but transferring over to Wakelet, like I said, everything is there. And I don't only have like all these links, but you know, I have the videos and I have the images and all those things. So I kind of went through, I went through this cycle, even as a teacher, like going from Symbaloo. I saw even someone put Digo or Daigo. I used that at one point, didn't like it. Google Sites, nah. And so I kind of gone to Wakelet and I put that on my website. So
yeah, I think it's the same story. I'm not going to lie to you, James. I still have a ton of tabs open. I'm really trying to wean myself from that. I know I can put all those tabs in a Wakelet collection.
I do that. I do that too. Don't feel bad.
But I think like I was saying, the Wakelet extension, the Wakelet app, it just works for me. I do use Google Keep still, like for agendas and stuff, quick things, but I usually go in and delete those. But yeah, I used Symbaloo before, just like Leticia. I was using Google Docs. I still do that. And I need to be better at, like, I can't organize my docs in a way that I can really find them, but the Wakelet organization, especially like Leticia said, with the spaces, it just makes everything much easier. Especially if you're like me and you have 4 accounts in every app that you're using. I know. I think I emailed James and I was like, I think I have too many Wakelet accounts. I've got to condense them all. But I think the thing is that Wakelet is so versatile, and that is why I love it. And I think that, again, is what I hear from Leticia. Of course, it took us a little bit of time. I used to call myself a preschool Wakelet user because I just was like, my brain can't go there yet. And now my brain automatically goes to Wakelet. And I think of Wakelet as, just like I said, the vehicle for whatever you're trying to do. It really just, it works and it's easy. And student accounts, I don't know, you guys are going to be blown away. So exciting.
And I want to point out too that Dina said, like, problem with Keep Notes is that if you change jobs, they don't transfer. And you're absolutely right. Like, the Wakelet is yours, right? You don't have to use your school email. You can use your own personal Gmail account, and all that stuff is there. So that's definitely
great point.
Yep. Thank you for that.
Great. Oh, Swiss Army knife. Yes, Linda.
Yeah.
It is. Swiss Army knife is curation, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking. All of it.
100%. But yeah, with the Swiss Army knife as well, one thing, and I think you've covered this really, really well, is you don't have to start off with all these weird and wacky and wonderful ways to use Wakelet. You can start off with just yourself, just organizing yourself, all those tabs into a collection to then share with your staff, your colleagues. I really love the digital hub, by the way, Tish. That looked absolutely amazing. I can see, well, as soon as you shared that, a lot of people are saying they're going to do the same thing, which is amazing to see. I was thinking, you mentioned student accounts there. Should we do a quick exclusive preview? I'm not really supposed to be able to show everyone, but I thought, why not? Everyone seems to be so excited in the chat, so I can give you a little preview of how student accounts will look in the very near future. I can see yeses already, so I think it's time I share.
I think you have to now, James. Got to commit.
I know. I already warmed up to it. Can you see my screen, Letitia?
Yes.
Yes, amazing. So with Wakelet, as Tish was mentioning before, a lot of people are using kind of portfolios and having students use assignments on Wakelet. And it can be a bit tricky at times managing a whole class. Obviously, every tech platform has that issue. And obviously teachers have the issue every single day with certain projects. Well, with Wakelet, we want to make it super, super easy to have your students on Wakelet all have their own accounts. And the best thing, I suppose, is of any age as well, because at the minute they can all have accounts. If they're over 13, what we're bringing in is anyone, whether they're below 13 or over, can have an account, and it will sit under the teacher who set it up. It works really, really simple. So this is in testing mode at the minute. We have a handful of educators and tech coaches testing this out at the minute. But if you want to get involved in testing it, please let me know. I'll drop in a quick form in the chat. But this is how it works. Literally, go to the three dots at the top here under an admin panel. If you click onto that, you will now see you can invite groups into Wakelet. And it's really, really simple. You can import student accounts from Google Classrooms and eventually Teams, Clever, and a whole host of other integrations and the platforms that you use as well. It's really simple. Click import. I have a Google Classroom account here. Going to open that up and you will select the classrooms you have. So you may have 1, 5, 10 classes. You go ahead and select the class that you'd like to add to import to Wakelet. Click import, and then within seconds, Wakelet will set up that classroom inside of it. So this is one of my classrooms here. It's a very strange name. It's got one account inside. So what you'll see when you click into here is 30 accounts, and you'll see all the student names as you go down. So this is one here, Wakelet Community, and you'll be able to access the accounts within here as well. So if you click to say James's, it'll show the collections, their bookmarks, and group collections too. And the best thing with this is you can see everything, of course, but they'll also have their profile, which will allow them to showcase their best work. So they can have all their assignments, all their work, their portfolio in their collections, and they can go ahead and move collections to their profile to show off their best, their best stuff, whether that's assignments, whether that's what they want to showcase to employers, educators, their friends. They can add that into their profile. There are a few other bits that I won't cover too much, but this will be kind of like a private profile that only the teacher and the students will be able to see it first, and there will be options to be able to invite parents in. It's not viewable to the public unless the educator chooses so, and there's a whole other host of features inside of that as well. But that's just a little exclusive. I don't want to show too much because it's not ready yet, but literally within the next few weeks, all of your students of any age will be able to have Wakelet accounts underneath the teacher.
And just can you remind us again, James, just in case like someone missed the early part of it, can you, Wakelet has done a great job of making sure that you're protecting student data, correct? In that, like,
100%, yeah.
Yeah, and if like Wakelet is bought by someone else, like we know what will happen with that data if it will transfer over, or right?
Yes, 100%, yeah. With the student accounts as well, we've been working alongside a company on the privacy policy and making sure that it still adheres to the privacy policy. And yes, it does. So all the student data that's in here, and the best thing is, it's not we're not even handling the data on Wakelet's side. If you're using it through Google Classrooms, importing from Teams or Clever or wherever, Wakelet's just the vehicle that allows you to import it. So that's the beauty of it there. So yeah, no worries about the student data on that side of things. Awesome.
Andrea says, let's see, Andrea says, someone mentioned not using collections for public sharing. Can you explain why? I think that, Andrea, my answer is going to be if they are under 13, maybe that is something you want to think through on those public collections. If it's not something that you want shared out. I have students who are over 13, like Leticia said, you know, I'm at high school. So I have them create their own accounts and they create their own public collections and they are sharing those out publicly. For my specific class of students, which is a very unique situation, I actually get parent permission. So at the very beginning of school, they know that these students are going to create public collections to share out to the world. But I definitely really, I always say it comes down to what is your purpose, right? What's the purpose of the collection? What's the age of the student? Who's looking at it? I mean, that's definitely a lengthier conversation, but Leticia, do you want to add to that?
I think there was also some clarification in terms of like spaces. So your spaces, when you set those up, those are by default private, right? So you can definitely share the link for others to contribute and have access to your space. If you do make that entire space public, then I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, and all those collections will also show up on your profile, correct or no? Yes.
If they're public, yes, they will.
If they're public. And, you know, the other thing too is that you have 3 options when it comes to visibility. You can have it so that way it is private, only you have access to it, which I do. I have some collections that I'm, you know, curating from myself that I'm using. Like right now I'm doing ISTE certification. So like I have those private, so that way I'm using those. And when I need to like turn in an assignment, then I'll go ahead. The second option is unlisted. So while it's not public on my profile, then I can still share that link, and my ISTE cert person can go ahead and still check my resources, or anytime that I am sharing with others, I'll leave it at unlisted. And then the last option is public. And going public just means that it becomes visible on your profile. So if people start to follow you, then they have access to it. And I think also too, once they follow you, they'll get a notification that like, oh, so-and-so just created a new collection. So those are the differences. And I think, again, knowing what your purpose is and why you've created that collection, I love that I have that decision, that decision lies with me and not with like Wakelet to determine that for me. And I love that by default, it's a private, and then I can go and change it as I need to.
Right, I agree. The unlisted option in Wakelet, like Leticia said, I use that on all the things that you're getting in that collection that we're sharing for today. All of those collections are unlisted. It wasn't something I wanted public. I didn't really necessarily think my teachers wanted to share their things public, but I wanted to give all of you access, so that I just made those unlisted. So you all have them, but the whole world isn't going to be able to see those. So.
Jamie did ask, how do we feel or deal with sharing resources shared at a paid conference? When I am taking notes and I like take that link and I add that to my Wakelet, if I know that that's the collection that I want to share with teachers when I get back to school, I do ask the presenter whether or not that I can share that with my teachers. And 9 times out of 10, they say yes. So I definitely do, because again, Tish and I talked about this earlier, we're big on DigSit, and I do want to honor that presenter's resources and their voice and their story that they shared. So I do ask afterwards. I don't know about you, Tisha, what do you do?
Yeah, it's definitely not something that I'm really sharing out often. If I'm in a PLC, I'm pulling up that conference and discussing it. And if they really want to look at it, yeah, we're big on digital citizenship. The majority, and I have found the majority of presenters and educators are very willing to share those resources because we're all on the same team. So I haven't really encountered anybody who was like, no, don't use that, or don't give it to a teacher, especially this year.
Amazing. Thank you. I'm just looking at the time and just realized we're almost over. But wow, what a session. How fast did that go? It's literally been an hour of fun. Yeah. So Leticia, Tish, thank you so much for sharing all the ways you use Wakelet. I've got a big list of notes here for myself that I learned. So I can see that everyone in the chat as well has enjoyed it. And I'm sure I've got a big list, if not bigger than mine as well. Thank you everyone for joining as well. It seemed like you had such a good time. We hope that was useful. We hope you enjoyed to see all the ways that you can use Wakelet and how you can get started, and a few little tips and tricks thrown into there as well. Huge thank you. I can see the chat box now is going crazy.
Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. You will get the resources sent to you from that collection via email. You'll get the recording of the session as well, along with a certificate of attendance too. So everything will be sent to your email in the next hour or so. But yeah, lastly, again, Leticia, Tish, thank you so much for that. Anything you'd like to leave on?
Thanks for having us. I love sharing the stage with both of you. Wakelet is where it's at, right, Leticia?
Yeah. I would say just try it. Start off with recipes. Start off with a playlist for your Spotify or songs on YouTube. Just try one thing. Try one thing.
One thing.
100%. Especially as we enter the summer period as well. Take that time out to have a play around with Wakelet on your own. See how it works. as Letitia said, play around with recipes, hopefully soon travel plans, that sort of stuff. Photo albums, scrapbooks, yeah, literally anything and everything you can use Wakelet for. Try it out yourself. And if you need anything at all, the three of us are here, the whole Wakelet team are here to support you in anything you need. And make sure, you can see the @ names with Letitia and Tish, make sure you go and follow them. They have so many amazing ideas as you've seen, and that's not even all of them. So make sure you do go ahead and follow them. Okay, amazing. Thank you so much again, Letitia and Tish. Thank you everyone for joining, morning, noon, evening, night. Thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you all soon in future webinars, but until then, stay safe and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.